how's everyone feeling tonight? And also, how is the music, the volume? Is it loud? It feels a little loud. Dakota asks, what's an easy, deep way to do shadow work? The easiest and deepest way to do shadow work is to pick one trigger that you have throughout the day and engage with it. Really ask yourself, what is triggering you? What is urging you to react to a certain situation, to be triggered? That's an easy and deep way to do shadow work. That is shadow work. Pick a trigger and work it out. And then pick another trigger and work it out. It's not easy, but it's not hard. It just takes being unafraid. Just being okay with being a little afraid of yourself at first, to recognize that there's nothing to really be afraid or ashamed of. Ooh, someone has joined us. Right now, her safe space is the back of my chair for whatever reason. The hardest thing, what was the hardest thing about the week? The conversations. They were tough conversations. What is the Emerald Tablet? Emerald Tablet info. What is it? Where did it come from? Baldude118 is very curious about the Emerald Tablet, and he has a right to be. It's a very curious item, to be honest. The Emerald Tablet is something that no one has ever really seen in its naked reality, its naked existence, except for supposedly Valinas from the legend, because the oldest copy we have is a transcription of it and translation into Arabic from the Syriac, supposedly, that it was written in. So Balinas transcribed this, supposedly this tablet that he found in the hands of a statue, hidden deep within a cave. He can't pry it from the hands, though it's stuck, so he transcribes it into Arabic. That's the oldest version we have. And then we have another one from Jabir ibn Hayyan, I think, also in Arabic, similar legend. So that's about as far as we know about it. And Balinas said that it was written by Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes al-Musaddis bil-Hikmah. That the statue was a statue of Hermes. Oh, thank you for subscribing, Tomas. You should come hang out with us in the Discord. Bald Dude says, interesting. So what does the information on the tablet, the transcription, provide? Well, it's a 14-line summary of the fundamental law of everything, according to Hermes Trismegistus, according to Balinas. You khalas. And it's where the famous line, as above, so below, comes from. Newton studied the tablet extensively and he translated it, although not very well, mind you. Funny enough, most of the people, if not all of the people, now that I think about it, that have translated it, at least classically, don't speak Arabic, and their translations are quite poorly written. What is your religion if you are religious? A girl has no religion. So energy frequency work alongside physics. In a way, Bald Dude, that's a good way to put it. Because at the end of the day, if there's anything worth believing in or really setting any kind of certainty, however limited the certainty, the best place to put our certainty to a degree is in science, in physics, or the physical laws of the universe, because they've proven themselves over and over. But you don't want to worship the laws because they also change, or our understanding of them also changes. So it's also keeping an open mind, being intuitive. What happens when you find the Philosopher's Stone? Well, if you have to ask, then you can't know, Ninkas. Jen asks, what is the purpose of your life? My life personally, or life, like of your life in general? I might have the same answer for both. Yeah, she feels it. Exactly, baby. To just be what you are and to explore what you are. You're always going to be more than you find out. Just take, unfold, and flower. You're like a flower. I think I'm like a flower, at least. Just unfolding constantly. Math is a language. Do you practice magic? Period explains. Everyone practices magic, even if they don't know it. Life is magic. living is magical. It's interesting that a lot of occult seems to come from misunderstandings of the Quran, someone says. You know what's even more interesting, Liber and Duval? Much of the Quran is retellings of Gnostic stories and Jewish apocrypha, Midrash, and whatnot, as well as some Christian apocrypha. Really, Islam, in a weird way, places itself among the occult because the occult grows out of practices like Gnosticism and ancient alchemy, amidst, controversial religious scholars and thinkers. That's where metaphysics is happening, as well as amongst philosophers. And that's really where the occult draws a lot of its influences. It's less obvious how Quran draws from these influences. Just a second. This is it. This is the menace. This is the problem. Yes, another one. This is her son, right? That is one Gnostic connection. What's your ethnicity? A girl has no ethnicity. A girl is born of the earth. Well, in the Persian Empire, it wouldn't have been occultism. It would have been like astrology, Zoroastrianism. It wasn't occult. It was already implicitly occult. Just a second. أخوت ضاع عقلك. وين هو عقلك؟ What were we talking about? Persian occultism. Right. Occult means hidden, etymologically tied to something being like occluded. Occult means like hidden knowledge, hidden societies, occult learning. It's called that in our modern society because it's occult to the common person from the church as well, because it's separating itself from religion and turning to a kind of mysticism and mystic belief. It's claiming almost ancestry or access to knowledge that is hidden, even to the church, even to people in power, and especially to all the common people. This is something that was just kind of implicit in knowledge in ancient societies because little to no one could read and write. Not everyone was. People weren't very literate in ancient times. Look at this. What is happening here? There's some action going on. Are you Jew or Christian or paganism? Sir, I am none of those. I am nothing. I am, of course, not paganism as a whole in general. When is the last time you turned into a cat? Just now. You kind of saw a little bit. Lots of people impersonate me on social media. By the way, you guys, if you haven't already, make sure to follow your girl on Instagram and subscribe to YouTube. I'm starting to make longer form content. The full story of Inanna is now available on YouTube, as well as other things. Crazy. كسرت الدنيا. كسرت كل شيء. شو هو ما كسرته بعد؟ Oh yeah, the interview with the Freemason is up there as well. Follow your girl on the other platforms. And Twitter if you just want to peek inside of my mind at 3 a.m. My 3 a.m. thoughts. Thoughts on learning Hebrew? Do it. Learn any new language you feel drawn to. Hebrew is fun. I'm learning Hebrew on Duolingo. I have been for a while. Is the Bible a conglomeration of esoteric knowledge from other early cultures? Ghost, that is a good way to describe it. But to be fair to Christianity, to the Bible, the way that it put these stories together was wholly original. I've seen people make videos or claims that everything that happened to Jesus has happened to so many other characters throughout history and throughout the history of religions, and it's the exact same story. It's not. There are different elements or parts of Jesus' story that you can find in a bunch of different stories, but you won't find the same story with all of the elements pulled together in the same way. And that's true of lots of religions in general. I actually ordered some food. Love that you still speak Arabic. Arabic is my first language, bro. It's a good thing I still speak English, if anything. I lived in Lebanon for so long. Where are you from? Which dialect is that, I mean? This is a very particular dialect. My accent changes depending on how comfortable I am. I mean, I'm a teacher now, but I'll be a legit professor soon. I'm almost done school. What is the latest thing you've read? I read a lot of things at once. I guess mostly this tarot book, but also poetry, like every day. It's in the living room. I've been reading this Dostoevsky. But I'm about to dive back into Circe by Madeline Miller. Can you pull it up one more time? You want to see the book again? Yeah, Madeline Miller is really good, and I started Circe's a couple months ago when we started book club on our Discord, but I couldn't keep up. I just had too much work. But now I need to dive back in, and now that like my schedule, my work is a little bit more manageable, a little bit, I think I'll be able to. What am I eating? This like lamb meat with rice and coleslaw. But I'm mostly only eating the meat and coleslaw. I'm not really eating the rice. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not calling me in that strongly. Also, the bones are kind of getting in the way. It's yummy though. I wouldn't be struggling with it if like I wasn't enjoying the bites I was getting out of it. Talk about life. What's that? Great question. Does anyone have an answer? Have you been using AI tools to help with your videos? No, sir. I don't really know what I would use an AI for, to be honest with you. Like, I have experimented with the language models and stuff. They're a lot of fun. I don't know what I would use it for. And I feel like it's still really obvious when people are using the language model to write for them, or script for them. And I like my own voice, you know? I don't need a language model's help. I kind of am a language model. Do you think the biblical Jesus would win in a fight against Moses? No, definitely not. Moses would destroy Jesus. Jesus isn't a fighter. Moses killed a dude. I mean, he pushed him right off the thing. In the movie, at least. And in the Bible. And in the Quran. So everybody agrees that Moses did actually kill somebody. Jesus would be mortified by the idea of even fighting. Jesus would try to hug it out, and then Moses would push him. That's how it would go down. Jesus said, "Sell your cloak for a sword." Really? Like in those words? Twitchy AI. Actually, that would be really interesting. Turning myself into an AI model so that you could access me and chat with me whenever you wanted. About dreams, about your journey, about whatever. Does it sound cool or does it sound dystopic? It sounds cool to me. No, the coleslaw came with the dish. I'm not gonna lie though. I'm eating these lamb chops on rice with coleslaw. Dylan said, "I work with Poseidon. I would like to know your honest thoughts about him." Well, I can't really know your personal Poseidon, and I don't have any personal feelings towards him. He's a cool god like all the gods, ruler of the seas, brother of Zeus and Hades, kind of like a forgotten middle child almost, because nobody really talks about him that much. Maybe that's why there are waves, so Poseidon can remind us that he's there. How does Oshun fit in? Oshun is, I'm assuming you're talking about Oshun, the Yoruban goddess. So Oshun is part of a different pantheon. I want to say Central African pantheon, but I could be wrong. But she's part of the pantheon of Olorun. Olorun would be like the equivalent of Zeus, and Oshun is more an equivalent of Hera, closer to Hera, or maybe Aphrodite or even Venus, but I don't think that Oshun was a name for Venus, specifically like the star. But anyway, Oshun is an African, a Yoruban African goddess, so she's part of a different pantheon. Why doesn't the Bible mention Jesus, David, Solomon, or the bloodline last name? There wasn't the same concept of last names that we have now. I love Graham Hancock. He's so interesting to me, and I love how he fights so passionately, he fights for access to truth, like asking real questions, being allowed to ask questions and challenge what we think we know, to be able to know more, because if we don't challenge what we know or think we know, then we never really learn anything. Who is Lucifer? You know, Lucifer, that word is mentioned one time in the Bible. And the word isn't Lucifer, it's Hillel, like Hillel. And Hillel was a name for Venus in its morning star position. It was translated into Latin as Lucifer, no capital letter, just Lucifer. And then I think it was the King James Bible capitalized the L on Lucifer. And it's just one line. "O Lucifer, son of morning, how you have been cut down," or something like this. But we have so many other ideas of fallen angel, devil, from the Midrash and Jewish Apocrypha and Quran. Because in Quran, there is a fall of an angel who becomes Iblis. He has a name, a real name, and it's explicit. The devil is very explicit in the Quran. He is Iblis. He has a name. Like Khidr doesn't even have a name. The one that meets Moses isn't named in the Bible, in the Quran, but later scholars called him Khidr. But Iblis, the devil, is named. What happens with Iblis is that he refuses to bow down to Adam. And a lot of Muslim scholars later on argued that this was the demonstration of Iblis's monotheism. Some people even argue that he's the only true monotheist because he refused to worship anyone besides God. When he was called to bow before Adam, he said, "Excuse me, like, why would I bow down to something younger than me and inferior to me?" And that story, the story of Iblis, is preceded by the story in the life of Adam and Eve, which was like a 3rd century Jewish apocryphal text, almost like a fan fiction, if you will, on the fall of Satan, or the fall of, I think his name is Samael in that story. Now, Lucifer, like I said, is a star. And it wasn't until the King James that there was a capital L on the word Lucifer and it became a name. And that one line just got conflated with all of these ideas from the Jewish Apocrypha to give life to this story about the fallen angel. The devil is the fallen angel. And the funny thing is that if you saw the Baphomet video, then you know that Baphomet was built on an other, on Muhammad. And this kind of, the whole conception of this devilish figure is the product of othering. But what's really funny is that the association of Lucifer with the devil and Satan is the same thing, because that line is spoken by Isaiah, in Isaiah, about the king of Babylon, literally about his other. He's prophesying the fall of the king of Babylon. He's calling him Lucifer, son of the morning, how you've been cut down. So do you see how all of these different ideas are become conflated? This happened later on. Like, this was a Christian projection of the idea of Satan on the Old Testament. Because in the Old Testament, there is no capital S Satan. There are Satans, plural, just people who are adversaries of the order of the monogod, God of Israel. But they're just adversaries. They're not the devil. They're not the embodiment of evil. They represent literally the other, the one who is against our values, our way of life, and therefore is our enemy. It didn't become capital S Satan until the New Testament, when they started writing it. Satanos. Like, I saw Satan fall or something. But otherwise, there's no capital S Satan. Can you speak on Ishtar? I heard she is the first god. Is that correct? No. But divinifications of the stars was probably one of the earliest forms of worship. And Venus was probably one of the first stars to be divinified. I don't even know if that's that's a good term to, or the right word, or even a word. I don't know actually much about Celtic mythology and folklore. I know a little bit because of Yeats, but I haven't done the deepest dive into it the way that I have other things. Right, we all know Odin and Thor and Loki, Freya, the basics. Who is the Son of Man Jesus is referring to? You are the Son of Man Jesus is referring to. Any books or other resources for the history about Lucifer and or Baphomet? Yes, look up Transcendental Magic by A.E. Waite. You said you like poetry. Who's your favorite poet? That's a really hard question to answer, honestly. Who is my favorite poet? I feel like I have several. E. E. Cummings is definitely way up there. Allen Ginsberg, of course. Hilda Doolittle. Rumi is pretty good. Gibran. There are probably so many that I'm not even thinking of right now. Walt Whitman. I love Walt Whitman. What if Abrahamic religions all come together and create a new one that combines them? They probably will. What is philosophy? Exactly what it says it is. The love of wisdom. Euphrates River is drying up. That happens almost every year, you guys. I do not have a podcast yet. Noya asks, how did you get into your major for grad school? So if you're in your undergrad, you want to move to your master's and you're interested in occultism, alchemy, esotericism, all that jazz, you will want to enroll yourself in a literature program. It can help to also have done a minor in mythology, philosophy, psychology, cultural anthropology, anything you want really, anything that interests you and enriches you, so that in your master's you can mix the two or several disciplines together via the lens of alchemical literature or occult literature or occult influences. So, for example, for my master's, I had done undergrad in English literature, and then I went for literature in my master's and did my specialty in occultist literature. But when you're writing a master's, what you have to do is essentially kind of show that what you're going to study and write about is going to add however little, it's going to bring a new perspective to this study, to the body of knowledge already written on occult studies. So you might compare two things in a very new way, which is what I did. No one had really talked about the way that dream analysis, occultism, and modernism were all intersecting in the early 20th century. So that was what I did. Almost like trying to prove that there was like this alternative spirit amongst certain writers that were using certain themes, taking from similar influences. So yeah, that's how I did mine. I just combined the two, well, three technically, and they allowed me. The best way to do it is just get into the humanities and then specialize in occultism and bring a perspective to it. Maybe you want to do philosophy and occultism, or crosses between, I don't know, the Hegelian dialectic and practices in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or whatever connections you want to make. That's really it. Just making new connections that no one has made before. You can do a master's on it. And to do a master's specifically in occultism and alchemy is to study occultist and alchemical literature, because that's all that is. Alchemy is more literature than it is anything else. It's just a lot of things to read, just lots of conjecture too. It's what you're really reading is almost 1,000 years, if not more, thousands of years worth of men losing their mind, essentially. Like people just going nuts, just going all the way into it. Some people totally believing in the physical magic of turning metal into gold. Few people really grasping the idea of it. Other people just completely limited in their observations, in their worldview. It's all interpretation. Every different alchemical writer will tell you a different thing, will give you a different opinion, will tell you how things work. Paracelsus, for example, one of the most famous alchemists from 15th century, 1500s. And he was, I don't want to say he was misogynist, because they were all misogynists, more that the idea of misogyny was just so baked into the logic of the way they thought about the world that a lot of his ideas were just very skewed, like they didn't have perspective. There is perspective that when I'm reading them, I realize that they don't have, that I do have. I can understand them, but they wouldn't have understand me. You know what I mean? So for example, Paracelsus was convinced that you could make your own human without sex, without a woman, without anything. Essentially, a woman was just like a vessel, like an oven, you know, like if you could get the right oven and give it like equivalent conditions as a woman's body, you could make your own human. And according to Paracelsus, those conditions are horse dung and sperm and a little vial to grow it all in. No hassle, no 9 months, no mood swings. See what I mean? Like, he's not intentionally trying to write women out of the equation. It's not his hate for women that is moving him to want to create his own human. It's the urge to just want to create one's own human, but the limited awareness of the individual wanting this thing, the vessel itself. They didn't even know that they had limited knowledge. You know what I mean? So it was just like all kind of baked into itself. The same way that today, now, we have limitations that are baked into the way we live our lives that will only become clear to people in retrospect, hundreds of years down the line, when they read about us and watch our shows maybe and our recorded TikTok lives, and who knows what'll happen, you know, people hundreds of years from now looking back like, oh my gosh, they used to have offices, like people used to literally sit in cubicles like side by side all day. That's crazy. Or maybe even like they used to die. That's so sad. They would just poof. What a shame. What a waste of people. So yeah, who knows? It'll happen, right? JD says I'm a 6 life path. Very cool. 6 is very much about pleasure, giving, overflow. Nice. One is the initiator, potential, totality, intensity. One is so intense. What is the poster on the right behind you? That one? This is a funny mushroom. Cool, isn't it? I really like it. Story time, please. I think didn't we just tell a story? What other stories are we gonna tell? Have you read the Epic of Gilgamesh? If so, what do you think of it? I have. I love it. I've read it several times. It's a very interesting story. Salty Mystic says, am I the only 7? I don't think so. I'm 7. You remind me of someone I've never met. Says, I live in a garden. I love that. I might steal that. Thank you, JD. Oh, I love Shakespeare. I was thinking of building a tarot course, a tarot and Shakespeare course, like a whole course using the tarot to talk about Shakespeare and Shakespeare to talk about the tarot. What do you think of the 4 humors? What do you mean, what do I think of them? I think science has evolved quite a bit since, but it's definitely an interesting start. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you, Johnson. Tarot through Shakespeare, yeah. Can you talk about your PhD? I can, but give me a minute. I need to prepare mentally. Thank you, Moises. What does it mean to be a 7? It means sometimes, I guess it depends at the end of the day, but generally it means that you are hungry for truth. Oh, we love Jodorowsky here. What do Shakespeare and tarot got to do with each other? Oh, so much. They were developing around the same time. Tarot starts a little bit before Shakespeare is born and starts writing, but he gets more popular, during the time that he's alive and writing, throughout the second half of the 1500s, very early 1600s, 1700s. There's like a codified Marseille deck. And there's so much going on in the images that remind me of the stage, the theater, the costumes, the puppets, all of it. It all seems so courtly and puppet-like and theatrical. It's all so dramatic. It's the Marseille deck. And the older decks, like the 1400s, the decks from the 1400s, are even more dramatic. What is your favorite Shakespeare play? That is such a difficult question, because I want to say Othello, but I also want to say Richard III, but I also want to say As You Like It, and I also want to say The Taming of the Shrew, and I also want to say The Tempest, and I also want to say King Lear. Bro, Shakespeare is the bomb. I love Shakespeare. And the thing about Shakespeare is that it gets better the more you read it. Macbeth. Macbeth is a great one. Hamlet. Oh my God. I can't believe I forgot Hamlet. Hamlet's spectacular. Which archetype or card would you say Ophelia represents? That's a great question. I don't know if I would give each character their own card in every play. Like, it would have to be like some people get a card, some situations get a card, some interactions or moments get a card, or dynamics. Dynamic between Hamlet and Ophelia, the lovers, for sure. For sure, a massive ass fall is coming. Death is coming. Why do some people think Shakespeare didn't write his plays? It's not that they think Shakespeare didn't write his plays, it's that they think Shakespeare is an abbreviation for all the different people who wrote these plays, as opposed to it being one person. And there may have been someone amidst this group who was named Shakespeare, but there were also other people involved. And a lot of people suggest this because, one, there's like very little information on Shakespeare's life, who he was, where he came and went, where he was from, etc. And because he just produced so much, like too much for one person. But I honestly don't think it matters, because it all has the same vibe. There is a style established here, be it of a group or of a person. There is this uniform style that is quite literally epic, endless. It's similar to the tarot in that you could stop at any sense or word or character and talk about them for hours. Like, there's so much hidden within every word choice. Like histories upon histories of etymologies and mythologies and symbolisms and foreshadowings. It's ridiculous. It's insane. It's insane how good it is, how well written it is. It's superhuman. If you're a writer or a creator, and you're creative in any way, I highly suggest that you read Shakespeare. We read Shakespeare to be better writers, is something one of my professors once said. The best reason to read Shakespeare is to become a better writer. Have you ever considered making your own tarot deck? Well, I'm not much of a visual artist quite yet, but I was thinking of printing some Smith Waite cards with my own, logo and a book that I've been working on, like a little guide with the cards that you can use. So I might do something like that if you're interested in something like that. Because really my skill is in the traditional, the classical symbolism more than anything else. Electra. So you can see my big three, earth and fire. How do you interpret each thing? It's, you use coins or, these little sticks. You can use sticks or coins. It's a dash, like a double dash system. I'm not well practiced or well versed in the I Ching quite yet. I did get it recently, but I'm not good with it, comfortable with it quite yet. No, and yes. No to Sun and Aries, yes to Virgo somewhere. Have you read the Tao Te Ching? Yeah. I mean, I've read several translations, listened to a number of translations, but I want to dive deeper into Zen Buddhism. I've been feeling really called towards it lately. Probably making videos about that pretty soon. I Ching is fun. Jung compared the Marseille Tarot to I Ching. The Leo hair. I do have a lion's mane. I feel like good hair is an aspect of every Leo rising. You just have good hair. I have used the Thoth Tarot a little bit. I'm not a fan of it, though. I'll say that. The deck that I've felt most connected to ever yet has been the Marseille so far. Not that I'm not connected to the Rider-Waite, because I am, but the Marseille is different. There's something different about it since I started working it. But I'm still learning it as well. I can't read it with the same amount of confidence that I can the Smith Waite. Because I worked with the Smith Waite exclusively for a long time. Like no other deck. I did not even lay my eyes on another deck until a woman I met read me with an oracle deck. I didn't even know oracle decks existed at the time. I had been living in Lebanon for a while, and then I moved to the US to a hostel in San Diego. I didn't know hostels existed either until I went to one and lived there, and one of the girls there used oracle cards, and that's when I discovered oracle cards and other decks. I didn't really like them, so I stuck with the Smith Waite. Yeah, by the way, you guys, if you haven't already, come hang out with us in the Twitchiverse, our beautiful little Discord server community. We have tarot circles every few weeks, movie nights from time to time, and we're having a tarot circle this Sunday, tomorrow actually, and a movie night next Sunday. So make sure to join the Discord, RSVP to the events. Make sure you come. Tarot Circle and movie night. I'm actually going to be presenting a card in Tarot Circle tomorrow. Join us over there. Go to my website, twitchy-witch.com, and all of my links are there. There's a link, Twitchiverse Discord. I always shapeshift unintentionally and totally sober, just as I did a little bit earlier. What is the wallpaper? The mushroom? This is a mushroom. And this is the moon, the tarot card, the moon tarot. How do you shift? Isabel asks. Well, Isabel, I'm sorry to tell you, but if you have to ask, you can't know. Who doesn't love Bob Dylan? Can you explain the moon tarot inverted? Remember that every card depends on its context and on the cards around it. Now, the moon, being a card of intuition, fear, uncertainty, vivid dreams, visions, when upside down, can show a dissonance between you and your subconscious self, your intuitive self. It's like you feel like no one is watching, no one is around. Like you've been disconnected from someone who is watching over you, a guardian or a mother. The moon is heavy with the mother archetype because she is like the mother of the two wolves on the card, watching over them. Upside down, it's almost like you are one of those dogs, just howling into the night. No moon to hear. Can you please explain what alchemy is for dummies? All right, let's define alchemy in the absolute simplest way. Alchemy is taking one thing and turning it into another via a specific process of transfiguration. Particularly taking something rough, dark, messy, chaotic, turning it into something valuable, helpful, something that offers something to the world. Shadow work is alchemy, yes, 100%. Taking a part of you that is wounded, kissing it better, really, so that the next time it is confronted with a problem or a trigger or just life, it is able to behave and respond in a way that is beneficial to you and to your growth and to your progress and to your expansion as a human being. So alchemy is really the taking of things that are dark, raw, prima materia, and turning it into something of value, gold or the philosopher's stone. These are metaphors for your own skill, your own goal, your own offering for the world. Alchemy can be cooking. Cooking is one of the best manifest in our everyday lives forms of alchemy. Cooking is literally taking a raw material from the ground that has reached the peak of its life, that can only really start to degrade from here and become food for the earth, and it's turned into something for us to eat. It can be gardening, art, dance, 100%. It's everything. Yeah, JD, it really is everything. Everything we do is a kind of alchemy, an energetic alchemy. Electra says, alchemy is looking at the abyss, looking back at you. It's funny you say that, because I've been thinking about that quote, that moment in Nietzsche. And what's funny is that a lot of us think that what he's saying is look into the abyss. But what he's really saying is don't look into the abyss. It's gonna look back, as in you're gonna lose your mind, you're gonna lose your sense of reality. your sense of self if you look too long. You have to know when to remove, when to avert your eyes. Because he also says in that same quote, be careful if you fight monsters that you don't yourself become a monster. Which is why I started saying shadow play instead of shadow work, because we're not trying to struggle or wrestle with the other side of ourselves. We're trying to play with the other side of ourselves, accept it, embrace it. You know what I mean? She said, someone remove me now. It feels like you're still with yourself. But I have seen people really lose it. Like, have the abyss, really look back. And it isn't easy to come back from that all the time. Not everybody makes it back. So look into the abyss, but be smart. Hornsey says, what religion do you agree most with? All of them. I agree with all of them the same. And at least all of the ones that I've encountered and studied. And I haven't encountered them all. So until I've studied every religion, I can't tell you for sure which one aligns the most. Of course, yeah, the Baha'i faith. It's one of the fastest growing faiths, if not the fastest growing faith in the world for the last few years or so. I've only read a little of the Vedic texts. I do need to dive deeper into Eastern mythology, but I'm more drawn to Zen Buddhism right now than Hinduism. Steve said you spelled your username wrong, Twitchy Witch. Duh. 'Cause it's Twitchy. A Twitchy Witch wouldn't write Twitchy properly. Duh. It's just evidence of the twitch in Twitchy. Way to make me walk you through the whole logic of the name, bruh. I'm just kidding. I know, there are so many of them. There are so many of them. I heard that you have to know astrology before you start tarot. Is that true? No, ma'am. Especially if you're using the Marseille deck or the Smith-Waite deck, because they weren't made with any intended alignments, intended astrological alignments. So you can read those two classic decks with zero astrological knowledge because they don't have anything to do with astrology. Although there are teachers and writers and readers who associate the astrology with different cards, and it can help you study astrology if you're interested in it. It can be a nice way to introduce yourself to astrology while you learn the tarot. So, yeah, whatever you want to do. A girl is ethnically human. You guys. Race is an illusion. Did no one watch Race, the Power of an Illusion? Please go watch this film. What spiritual cultivation do you practice? That's a nice question. Because I don't do very much. But what I do, what I do, what I do is, one, keep things light, I guess. That is one practice. I wouldn't call it a practice because I just naturally like to joke about everything. But I feel like it is a good practice in itself. Like sometimes you can trick yourself into laughing, finding something funny. The do. That's one thing I do. I let myself laugh at myself, at different things, at things that I think are upsetting me. I just take a moment to pretend to be an alien watching in on myself and realizing how ridiculous I look, being so serious. And so that's one. Another is yoga, just yoga throughout the day. I don't stop and do a whole yoga session, but I'll be working and then I'll feel like I want to move a little. I'll get up, I'll do a little movement, I'll do a little dance, something, and then I'll continue my work. Working is very spiritual to me. I love my work. I love to work. I love to learn. And the more that I learn that I don't know and that I will never know, the more I feel that adds to my spirituality. It really humbles me, that's for sure. Learning a lot of things is very humbling, to me at least. So those are some of the things. Meditating and breathing consistently. I'm almost a professional breather now. Consistently remember to breathe. Yeah, and meditating. usually in the mornings, almost every day. Did you ever overcome a breakup? If yes, how did you value yourself for a better mindset? There is a lot to say about that question. I don't know if I can dive straight into all that. Maybe you specify, I could make the question a little bit smaller. Also, I need to go soon. Why did you cover up your freckles? My freckles are not real. They're a filter. You can see on my videos that there is a freckles filter. Freckles by Emma, I think, or something. Or Sophie. Yeah, spontaneous, yoga, goofy sides of things, remembering to breathe, letting myself be, letting myself feel, letting myself make mistakes. Just all the little stuff. That, I think, is the best way. And just doing your research and looking around and learning things, trying new things, that is what will inform and enrich your journey. That is your spiritual journey, your lived existence and what you choose to do with it with your time. Yeah, dancing as well. I haven't been able to dance lately because of my back and my hips, but I am getting stronger now, so hopefully I will be able to dance soon. How can I make better choices? Set an alarm. Set like a stopwatch alarm that goes off every 15 minutes or 25 minutes that reminds you to drink some water. Just start there. Having a glass of water every 25 minutes. And on that note, let us hear from our sponsors. The tap water. What's wrong with your back and hips? Well, I have a herniated disc in my back and I have hip dysplasia. And I started having some pain recently. It was a whole thing. Then I had to take meds and shit and rest and do these exercises and see a physiotherapist. And yeah, it's been a ride. My back feels better though, but my hips still hurt. So yeah, I will be dancing again soon when I'm stronger. Joe Dispenza does come to mind. Several people have told me about him, but I haven't done it yet. I haven't read him yet. Looked him up, really looked into him. Wow, the ADD really took over right now, just then, in that moment. I do know I have fake accounts. I have so many fake accounts here and on Instagram. And by the way, you guys, if you haven't already, please go follow your girl on Instagram. I would deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate it. First, just in case this platform goes down, and secondly, because I post stuff cool stuff on the stories and more inner circle stuff. And also, if you haven't already, join our Discord community. There are so many cool people in the Twitchiverse. We always have such great conversations. People are funny, smart, interesting, there to talk. Everyone has different opinions. Everyone's from a different background. Everyone's a different age. It's such a great community. It's so diverse and beautiful and interesting, colorful. So definitely come join us on Discord. It's a great place to be. Go to my website, twitchy-witch.com. You'll find my little link tree. It's in my bio. And you'll find Twitchiverse Discord on there. You can also sign up to get an email about my upcoming book that I'm working on or other things. Book a one-on-one session if you want with me. Do the survey, get a chance to win a reading with me. You've been trying to join the Discord. Why? What's happening? The Discord is always open. And there are people from all over the world, Big Chief. Everyone in these different time zones. So whenever you're up, I'm sure there's always somebody around. The skin and hair care routine. Thank you. I have dropped the hair routine. It's on YouTube. You can go check it out. Oh yeah, if you haven't followed me on YouTube, you guys, if you haven't subscribed to YouTube, please go do that as well. I am now uploading some more long form content. I'm still practicing. I just downloaded Adobe Premiere Pro a few days ago, and I've been learning to use it. I did the full text of Inanna, I did the hair tutorial, and there will be more coming up. Well, anyways, beautiful people, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I have to go. I'm probably going to reorder some dinner because I didn't really eat this stuff. But thank you so much. This was so much fun. Like I said, if you haven't already, please go follow your girl on Instagram. Go to my website. You'll find everything. Different ways to support me if you want to. And I will be back with some cool videos very, very soon. All right. Love you. أخوت ضاع عقلك. وين هو عقلك؟ شو عم بيصير؟ شو هو اللي بدك إياه؟ شو بقدر أعمل؟ ما فيني أعيش هيك. What were we talking about? Persian occultism, right.